All right, well, we are live now. We are live now, Mr. Payette. Is it Payette? Payette?
It's Payette. Like, did you pay yet?
Did you pay yet? Like, hey, you owe me some money, man. Have you paid yet? That kind of
Exactly.
thing.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, great. So this is Amateur Hour for those of you who are first time joiners of this show. This is a show where we pair a master of sorts, someone like yours truly, with an amateur. And when we say amateur, we mean it in the most respectful version of the term. In this, because Dave is it okay if I call you Dave?
Absolutely.
Dave's not the strongest chess player we've ever had on the show. Is that fair to say?
I think that's a fair statement to make. Yeah.
It's a fair statement to make, but
Yep.
it doesn't matter because what you lack in terms of chess knowledge, you make up for in terms of chess enthusiasm. Would you say that's fair?
Yep, and good looks, I would say. Yeah.
And I think that's true too, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll let the audience decide that. But so Dave, so
Dangerous.
in all seriousness, this is
Mhm.
this is a show where what we're going to do here, everybody, a little bit different than the previous amateur hours we've had with Alec Torelli. And for those of you who've watched those shows, Alec Torelli being the poker aficionado and kind of self-made poker star guy. We focused on a little bit more of an interactive experience where I was taking on audience members, but we felt like the theme, Dave, got a little stale and maybe even was a little bit too similar to other shows. And so this show, what we're going to do is really give the audience and really you the voice you've always wanted to basically be the co-host of an analysis session where we're going over the games of some of the best chess players on our server. Right now, we're lucky to be graced with a throwdown that's taking place between Hikaru and Sergei Grigorians right now, right? You're following that too.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so without any further ado, I think we want to dive right in here. And I think the main goal today is that you tell me when I need to shut up, when I need to listen, when I'm giving you advice that you find useful, and when I'm going straight over your head, and when I'm not doing enough accents. Just all those
Yeah.
things, the top list of criteria. So we're going to analyze this chess together, and we're going to learn together, right? So tell the audience a little bit about your history with chess and your level of chess and why you're happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to be here because it's kind of it's awesome. I feel like I have a live action version of Danny Rensch to talk to because I've watched you so often on YouTube. It's kind of surreal to actually be talking with you in person.
Well, you literally
Yeah.
have a live action version.
Yeah, I
of
know,
that.
right?
And I think if only you could tell my wife that. If only my wife appreciated conversations with me in the same way. But go ahead.
So my chess career, if you will, was my dad and I used to play when I was a kid, and he taught me how to play chess. He had no formal training at all, and so I just grew up playing here and there. I always liked the game. Then somewhat recently, I moved to Maui, and I got back into chess with some friends out there, and we were just really bad. And we play a lot. My rating for Blitz right now is probably about 960.
Okay.
980, and I don't want to exaggerate. I know it'd be tough to believe, but also my bullet rating is probably around 900 right now. So
Okay.
I know a
How
couple.
how how much how often do you play Blitz and Bullet games?
I play probably about. Recently, I've been playing about 10 bullet games a day, maybe. I'm like in between the 10 and 20 game a day range. I've played thousands of games on chess.com.
Okay. Yeah. So you would be happy to admit that you've wasted in an unhealthy amount of your life playing chess,
Yeah, I
right?
think it's my.
I mean, just like the rest of us.
And I mean, as an iPhone guy, I can say that the chess.com app is like my favorite iPhone app. I think that
Right.
your developers do a great job and everything. So
All right. Well, thank you.
yeah,
Well,
sure.
so everyone, again, thanks for being here. This is a format that I think is going to be a lot of fun because we're gonna dive into some instructional stuff here. We've got Hikaru Nakamura playing right now against Sergei Grigorians, and if he leaves, we'll pick another set of a couple of masters going at each other and try to actually learn from these games in a way that provides some analysis and some insight into the thoughts and questions that we feel like we maybe aren't always answering for a large a large group of our audience, and so. Dave, without any further ado, let's dive into the analysis in terms of what you think. So we're looking at this position right now. The score is 5-2, 5-2, five not 5-2, 5-2. Although Hot Shots Part Do. Did you see
Yeah.
that flick?
No, I did not. Indeed.
Okay, good for you. That was a bad one.
Yeah.
5-2 Hikaru, which is probably
Which
not the
rhymes.
worst
Yeah.
score for Sergey. I mean, given that it's Hikaru Nakamura. But so when you look at a position like this, what's the first thing that completely overwhelms you?
Well, I guess just the idea of how to start to analyze a position like this. The first thing that overwhelms me is the question. I guess
Okay.
that what happens. So I was talking to you a little bit before the show, and I think
Right.
what a lot of us amateurs get into problems with is like not really having a framework to analyze a game from any given position. In this case, I mean, a move that I'd try to push the pawn on h5, but I mean, I don't really even know what to be watching for. And
Okay.
I guess my question, if I had to ask you a question, would be, okay.
I know you heard me typing there. You're like, wait, is he making notes about me like a
I thought
therapist?
he's
No,
just
no.
booting me out of the chat right now.
No, no. I was just like, all right, this show's over. Get
Yeah.
rid of Dave. No, we need somebody else. So go ahead. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to ask you, what do you see? I mean, I think that I told you a little bit in our chats that I have a background in music and I sort of have that it factor. And I think that you have that massive amount of natural talent with chess. And the blessing and the curse piece of that is like, for those of us that don't, or like, we're probably even, I represent someone that's never taken a chess lesson in his life.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are in that crew. So it's hard when you're in the top of something to get so far removed that you're playing with people who really, really stink at the thing. So what are you looking at right now in terms of, because I see like the pawn on b3. I mean, what are you looking for?
Okay, yeah. So the first thing you have to do in any position, I mean, you have to take account of material. Now, we have a small disadvantage. This is going to be easier in the next game because we'll be following it from the start. So I think that in the next game, having a little bit more of a rapport in terms of watching the game develop, it's always easier to maybe sense the critical moments coming, or you even for lower rated players, I think you have a better idea of, at least you know how you got here. Like, we kind of started this one in the middle of a mess, right?
But I mean, even if I knew how we got here, Danny,
Right. Well, so then, okay, so let's see. So the thing is, first thing I notice in a game like this, which you have to do in Blitz and Bullet, is don't get sucked in or fascinated by what's on the board before you look at what's going on with the time, right? So we have 40 seconds for Hikaru Nakamura and only 12 seconds for Sergey Grigorian. So this game is about to end. Now, the reason why that's important is because I think part of the reason why low-rated players sometimes lose the enjoyment of watching top players is because, like, you can't even keep up with the chess, and then before you know it, someone's down on time, and it's like the whole thing has just become a rapid-fire mess, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, even if I had 10 minutes to analyze the position, I don't think that I'd be able to do it as effectively as someone like yourself could in 2 seconds.
Right.
So,
and
that's the thing. It's like a massive difference in the skill level.
So this is actually kind of an exciting finish. So now I'm a little bit into it. I'm a little distracted. I think Hikaru's going to beat him on time, but he's certainly made it tricky for his opponent, and now he's going to flag him, and he just has. So that was fascinating. Hikaru doing what he does best, which is winning lost positions with no time. So okay, let's start fresh here. All right, let's start right here.
Let me ask a very beginner question that's probably easier than or like. I see that these guys are obviously playing openings, which you have to play with chess. So if somebody was to, and I know that you have the Chess Explorer, and I'm a premium member of chess.com, and what's the best way to go about analyzing an opening, choosing the first moves you make, and like I was thinking the other day about, okay, like if you were to watch me play chess, how many moves in could we get before you were like, this guy's not a grandmaster? And it's probably like one. Like I play.
No, it's not one necessarily. Certainly not an online blitz. Now, over the board, that's a funny question because often, I just did this event in Los Angeles with Magnus Carlsen, and we were talking in the pre-game room about how because people asked us the same question, like how quickly do you know you're playing somebody who's just terrible at chess, right? Mm-hmm. And often you can tell by how they physically hold the pieces or how they move the pieces. I mean, sometimes you get fooled by like a Park Hustler or somebody who has like the body. In fact, Magnus told a funny story about how he played somebody who he had the same thought, right? This guy was like kind of fumbling, moving his G-pawn, and you always notice an amateur because they reach out and they're almost like asking for their hand to tell them the answer of where the piece should go, right? They're like, is the hand going to tell me where to go, right? Yeah. And so sometimes you play somebody like that and they surprise you like being decent, and Magnus told a funny story about where he got in trouble because he kind of thought, oh, I'm just going to go for a quick checkmate against this guy, and then the guy was actually pretty decent. But most of the time you can tell by how somebody physically moves the piece pieces. I mean, there's a body language over the board that somebody has who's moved chess pieces, 20,000 times versus somebody who's still just figuring it out. So that's over the board. It's a different answer. Online, you don't know that. So I mean, you could even play a terrible move on move one, and maybe I think you're just trying to fool with me. I mean, look at Hikaru's bullet. He plays shenanigans all the time and still wins, right? So, but I guess to answer your opening question, how would you first of all, there's like very, very common patterns in openings. I mean, so if we look at the top players, even when they play an opening you don't know, they do things that you were taught to do in the beginning of chess, right? I mean, they still they attack the center, right? I mean, they're even in opening like they played to start this game with an English. I mean, they're bringing out their pieces to fight for control over the middle of the board. And regardless of the opening that's played, that's almost never a theme that changes. The method of the madness, the way they want to control the center changes. And I think that that's important because, like, if you go to our analysis board, if you go to Amateur Hour 1, Dave, where we're together, like, if someone plays this on move 1, plays A4, you can see the move I made?
I can.
And then you play the center, and then they play this on move 1, and they think they're fooling you because they're doing something weird. Like, you know exactly what to do. If somebody does this, you're just going to, like, grab control over the middle of the board and just kind of own everything.
Right. So yep. Go ahead.
You would know to do that, right? You would know to control the center.
Well, that's one of the things that I think would be, like, for Amateur Hour to be one of the key points, like control the center, attack the center of the board. And then you said there were different ways to do that. So I'm just like taking it all the way back.
Let's do this. Let's start here. So let me try to explain every move. This will be fun. See how fast I can do it. Are you following Hikaru's game?
Let's see. Yes,
so
I am.
Okay, so notice they also start in the center. With E4 and C5, they're both trying to attack. Now, respectively, they're attacking the light squares and the dark squares, but they're trying to work together to attack the center squares.
Okay. Now, yep, they're attacking the light squares and the dark squares. I can see that, but how does that? Why are they each attacking? Let's see. Each one are attacking the dark squares.
Each one is like a counter blow. If you go to our analysis board on Amateur Hour 1 again, I'll go back to the beginning of the board because these are great questions. So if someone plays E4, they're playing the most common opening in chess, right? And now they play the move C5, which is what Hikaru's opponent played. They're trying to attack the dark squares. Usually that's a logical thing to do because white has overextended on the light squares, which makes D4 weak. For example, what I mean is if white plays D4, you don't necessarily see E5 or C5 played anymore because those moves are probably just going to be taken and they're challenging something where someone is strong. So this is really basic stuff, but it is very important to understand, like, the reason why the Sicilian or even the move E5, I mean, these are the two most popular moves in chess. If someone plays E4, you're either playing E5 or C5 a lot of the time, right?
Yep.
Those moves make a lot of sense because they challenge an area of the board that is currently unchallenged. And then what does white do in Hikaru's game? So now if we go back, actually just stay on the analysis board.
So they challenge an area of the board that is currently unchallenged. So they are challenging. Just explain that one more time for me because I'm not going to be afraid to look amateur on the Amateur Hour. So if
you're not going to be afraid to look like an amateur, right?
Like I am, yes. So my ego, yeah. So you said that. What did you say there again? Just back that up a little bit and explain.
So what I meant is now this is like really I don't say it's really fundamental in the sense of like really like, oh, what you're asking is silly, David. No, that's not what I mean. What I'm saying is like even for advanced players or beginners, this is like a very like core concept. Okay, this is like a fundamental concept. You still have to learn some basic opening moves so that you start, and I'm going to talk about how to use Explorer to do that. So you start building on the muscles of, okay, this game I messed up on move 3, the next game I didn't screw up until move 5, and now all of a sudden I'm on move 10 and I'm playing what the Explorer tells me to play. Yay, right? I'm doing better. That's progress.
Yep.
So you still have to try to learn some openings that are recommended by statistics, by what people have done previously. But the basic core concept of every opening, you could put me in front of 30 moves of the Ruy Lopez, and I could explain every move and why black reacted to white this way, and then white reacted, and then black reacted, and white reacted, based on this sort of core thing I'm telling you right now, which is that essentially someone makes a move, no matter what, especially with pawns, you are gaining control and losing control over certain critical areas of the board with every move you make. I mean, literally, if you bring a knight here and then they bring a knight out, and if this, okay, this is an obvious way to put it, right? If this knight moves here, it literally gained control over these two squares and left behind control over these two squares. Now, would it be a good idea to go for these two squares versus fight for the center? Probably not, right?
Yes. No.
But I'm just pointing out that basic, like it's a very fundamental thing you want to have as a chess player, which is it starts to help you to understand the cause and effect, right? To every action is an equal and opposite reaction in chess, where you can all of a sudden look at opening theory and be like, okay, like Danny said, every move should have something that takes advantage of like something that is either not, vulnerable for the take, right? It's less guarded than it should be, or it's where your pieces might have a chance to work together. So that's something to consider when you're looking at openings or looking at top players' play. Is this helping at all?
Yes, I think it is, but let me just let you into my mind a little bit here. So I think that there's
first of all, that's a scary invite. Given the shirt you're wearing, that's adorable. But I don't know, it's scary. Go for it.
So, so when you look at the board,
okay,
I think that this is a tough sort of metaphysical question. But if you look at the board, what is it that you see? Because I can see when I see the pieces on the board, I know where they all can go. It's not a problem. Like I know where the knight can go. But can you see where they can all attack? Can you see all the patterns? Can you see which squares are attacked twice or defended? Or
well,
I wonder, like how do you, if you're teaching a child how to play chess, and you're taking them from, I know where all the pieces go, what's the next visualization step, or what's the next step?
So
go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
No. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. I think because you're asking me to think about it in a way that I think is really helpful. And I think the next step is actually not even what you can attack next. It's actually being aware of the squares that your opponent has controlled, right? Has guarded. So, because to answer your question, like for a child, they learn how to move the knight. And they're super excited to just have accomplished moving the knight, right? So why not move that dude again? Because hey, I'm real proud of myself. I just moved the knight. Now I'm going to put it here.
Okay.
Right? And you see what's wrong with that, right?
Yes, I do.
So the first thing to understand is there's a ebb and flow in these situations that is. Wow, is Hikaru going to try to flag him with 35 seconds? Sorry, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
It's a dead draw, but Hikaru's going to try to flag him. Hikaru is very, very smartly trying to create a situation right now where he's not repeating the position twice. See how he went all the way back with the king before moving the pawn to one square on a3?
Okay,
right. He did that to avoid repeating the position 3 times because he's going to flag Gregorians without ever repeat. Because you know that there's a draw in chess, that if you repeat the position 3 times, it's a draw.
Right, so he's got a move where he can move the pawn up one and then do a little triangle thing with the king.
Exactly. So he does a whole bunch of triangles with the king and then moves the pawn once, because then he can go back to every single one of those squares with the king, and it's not the exact same position because he moved the pawn once.
Yep, awesome.
So simultaneously, while we're having this awesome discussion for amateurs, we're watching Hikaru Nakamura do things that most human beings will never comprehend, and I can't do what he does, but it's awesome to watch. Anyway, sorry.
Sure.
Okay, so we're back at the question. So the point is, the ebb and flow in chess is right here. Gaining as much as you can without losing as little as possible. Right?
That
So
makes
it's like a war in that sense. It's battle. It's risk. Right? It's world domination. And the board is your Australia, and then you ever play Risk, right? If you get Australia, of course. I'm kidding. I'm talking to a board nerd here. I'm sure you played Risk. So to answer, I think this is helpful because it should answer your question like this. So after you teach how the basic pieces can move, the goal is to control and give your pieces as much power as possible, while not losing or limiting your opponent's pieces as much as possible along the way. So the first thing you really want to learn as the basic thing is, okay, now they know how to move the pieces, but why not just put my knight here? And you're like, well, you have to apply this concept of how you know the pieces move to your opponents, because can't you see that they can move a pawn too, or they can move a knight too? So suddenly you realize, okay, So the next step is, all right, I can't just like do whatever I want, which is why chess is so good for kids, because kids are so self-consumed in a good way, right? They spend their whole life like without even understanding the concept. Wait a second, this is like you're not going to fully cooperate with every single thing I want. Like this is flipping mind-blowing, right? I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So to answer your next question, this is actually helpful because now we're going over Hikaru's game with Sergey from a little bit ago, Dave, because Hikaru now played this line with c3.
Yep.
So if I just explained to you that I want to control as much of the critical area of the board, which is the center, you understand that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I want to do it without losing as much as possible. So I can't just go take what I want and put a piece there because that's going to be a bad idea.
Yep.
So the next thing I do is I try to over-control what my opponent is guarding. So I play c3 with the one purpose. No matter what black does, if I have my way, I will next play a move like d4. Now I'm getting that control that I wanted, and I haven't lost anything. I haven't lost any material. We've traded pawns, but that's not a loss.
Mm-hmm. You just did 4 moves in a row very quickly. And I guess that I can ask a question about that right now, because a lot of the time I get into this position where I haven't pushed the d pawn yet, and I'm played c3, and I feel like I should always play d4 first. But I can tell you also, when I always feel like I'm going to get my butt kicked when I play chess online. You know, and then it's like finally
me
somebody
too, buddy.
screws
I mean,
up.
That's not a level thing. I always feel like I'm going to lose too. So go ahead.
No, so I guess I understand the concept. Just walk through those few moves that you just did, because you got yourself in like a very beautiful center position. That
right.
I think that your move order was very logical, but it's not something that I would have done.
So if we're backing up from the initial like goal or starting point, right? We talked about.
Yeah, we can go from like where we just were.
Okay. So we talked about the center, and then we talked about both sides. You know, the basic concept of obviously I want to control as much with losing as little.
Yeah, and are you looking at a specific? Are you like right now I want to control the d4 square, or are you saying I want to just control the center?
The reason why openings are so vast is because there's so many styles. I mean, in this position, this is a move.
Okay.
This is a move. d4 right away.
Yep.
Knight c3 is a move. Bishop c4 is even a move. So the issue is you have to let go of style. Forget about all the different ways to do it, and just know that the key to starting to get good positions is just commitment. Commit to a plan and try to get it. So if you commit to the plan of trying to challenge the center with the pawns, a good way to do that is with the move c3.
Okay.
So there's all different kinds of plans you can play for. The best plans all have something in common, which is that they attack the center, they develop all of their minor pieces as quickly as possible, and they get the king safe as soon as possible.
Okay.
So you can choose your plans, and the Opening Explorer will help you to learn options, but all of the good ones will have something in common. Again, control the center, development of the minors. You get all 4 of the minors out before you move a piece twice, and you get the king safe. This is generally a very universally repeated sort of, pattern to chess strategy.
Yeah, and I think that for amateurs, for a lot of us, if I had that down in like my notes app on my iPhone, I actually might play better chess. Even though that's like the most basic thing that you've ever said, and like probably for yourself, but like, control the center, move out the minor pieces.
So you're telling me that
get
just
the
helped
king to
you.
safety. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so we just had like a Lloyd Christmas moment. I'm like, you're telling me there's a chance.
There's a chance here, I think.
What?
I mean, I hope there. I mean, it's not that I have a chance. I mean, I just took a golf lesson, and the guy said, some people they just never get it. And and it was the 3rd lesson I had ever taken with a guy.
I think
I was
at
like,
the
thanks.
end,
What are you, a motivational speaker on the side?
I think at the end of this chess video, I might be like, and Dave, some people just like to play chess. Some people don't get better. That's so funny. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, the unfortunate thing is that it looks like Hikaru has moved on to a new victim. Not unfortunate, but it's just fun to see that Sergey Grigorians had enough of losing to Hikaru. Now Hikaru has moved on to international master Andrew Tang. So this is I'm having a great time here. Let me check in on the chat. Let's see what the chat is saying about our little
Who is this
thing
guy?
Together.
How did he get on the show?
Right. Who is this man?
Yes.
Like, Danny, you really know how to pick him, buddy. Actually, Dave picked me. Dave reached out to me, which should be inspiring to everybody else. Dave just reached out to me and said, hey, man, like, I'd love to do a chess show with you. I'm not very good. I'm a big fan of chess.com, and let's do it. And that's how we literally had a show together.
Yeah, and I mean,
you kind of won me over. You won me over with your charming wit and smile. I'll be honest. I mean, if we had a talk and you were a dud, we wouldn't have talked again.
Yeah, well, I know that is. That's what happens
So.
in like 97% of my relationships.
All right. So here we see.
Okay.
I think people are getting. I'm just curious what people are thinking about the. I mean, I kind of feel committed and I like what we're doing. I was just checking on the chat to see what people are saying. So some people are chatting to say, I don't understand this guy's problem. Chess is really easy to learn. It's all logic. That's okay. Golden Star, I'm not playing you right now, buddy. We're analyzing and trying to get better. So stop trying to challenge me. People are liking the analysis board while Hikaru plays in the background, so that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of a fun experience. We got Hikaru entertaining us in the background. We've got analysis. We're answering questions. And it's really all based on things that initially spawned from games from Hikaru Nakamura. But I think what we have to do at some point is, I think one thing we're going to have to do, Dave, is we're going to have to take some of these tips we're giving. Like I just gave those 3 that you said were really helpful. No matter what the stylistic choice, no matter what the data or the opening score tells you, they all have something in common. Control the center. Develop all 4 of your minors before you move a single one of them twice, if you can. I mean, sometimes there's exceptions, but for the most part. And get the king safe as early as possible. Those 3 things will already take people from, they learned chess from their grandpa, on one rainy weekend, and then they found chess.com 20 years later, and they've just been losing blitz games like you for the rest of their life, right? I mean, that's exactly it, right? So those 3 tips will already help a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
You with me?
Absolutely, yeah. That would be super, super helpful. I mean, I can just write it down, you had mentioned going over some of the Explorer stuff too, which I think could be very helpful because sometimes I get overwhelmed by the Explorer and the different options that once I get in a couple of moves, it says right. This percentage of the time Black is going to win if you play this next move, and I don't know if I'm supposed to do that move.
Well, the right way to use that's actually a great question because I just had the chance to say this, which I've never said in this way, which is that's exactly the wrong way to think about the Explorer, which is that basically think of it, you need to start taking this mindset to the Explorer. As long as a move has been played, let's say a few hundred times or more, it's an option.
Okay.
So start ignoring this now, unless there's a move that's been played 10,000 times, and then a couple moves that have been played a couple hundred times. In that case, there's kind of a clear choice in terms of what people think is the best. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, people focus way too much on the statistics of a move that scores better, and then they see there's 7 moves that have been played 500 times a piece, and they all score between 45 and 55%. Well, what the bleep is going on here? I don't know what to choose, right? Instead, forget about all that. As long as a move has been played a few hundred times and it's within if it's within a percentage of a decent score, then it's an option, and then it's just about choose an option and stick with it. Really, the biggest mistake you can make is overwhelming yourself by changing your openings every game, trying to come up with a new idea every game. Now you're already on a learning curve that's steep for chess, and on top of it, you're making your progression slower because you're getting new positions every time. The fastest way for you to get better is to get the same position as many times as possible so that you don't make the same mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that helping?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that I need to dive in and take a look at the Explorer and start to because I think where's my opportunity to win? It's probably as somebody that's a 900 player, right? It's probably not 20 moves down the line. My opponent is probably not going to play 20 Explorer moves down the line. So it's not that hard for me to probably just get an advantage by playing a standard opening because people at my level don't really know openings.
Right.
Except for 2 moves or something. So and to be honest, we don't know why we play e4. We just know to play e4. We don't know why Black plays e5. We just know that it's good. We might know the name Sicilian and c5.
But now you're learning that, right? I mean, now you're learning that from me, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So you want to control the center.
So So there you go. The reason why e4, d4, c4 or knight f3 will be played in 99.999% of chess games is because every one of those moves fights for immediate control over the 4 most critical squares, and if you extend that, really there's the 8 most critical squares in the center.
Okay.
And then if you extend that, the 16 most critical squares in chess exist within this group right here.
Okay. Well,
if your pieces... Sorry, can you see that?
Yeah. So why are?
But hold on, real quick. So if your
Go
pieces
ahead.
either occupy or are fighting for control over those squares, you are already in a significantly better shape than the others. So you said I know I play e4, but I don't know why. Well, that's why, right? Because e4 is one of those moves that, okay, immediately occupies, fights for control over another, fights for control over 2 others if you count the extended 8. And it opens up more pieces to join the fight and do the same. So the reason why you see repeating things of that is because there's really no debate. And every once in a while you meet like a funny chess person who comes along and like tells you like, Danny, you know what, bro? I'm inventing my own chess theory, man. And I'm just going to do that. And there's nothing you can tell me because wait, it's like this, man. It's like the Taoism of chess, bro. There's an ebb and flow. And like, so insert California boy ridiculousness, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why that's the best. You have to control the center. You have to fight for control over the center and limit your opponent from doing so. So sorry, I cut you off.
And
what
also,
was your question?
well, I guess also by doing that, well, first off, I guess same question. By fighting for the control of the center and bringing your pieces into the center, you're exposing your pieces to attack from all the other pieces that are fighting for control of the center.
For sure.
So it would be safer to bring the knight to h3. It would be safer to bring the knight to a3.
But only in the short-sighted view, right? Only in the short-sighted view because why? So because here the reason I answer that is because you have to ask the why. So with that mindset you just said, you're controlling the center only because I told you to. Do you know why you're controlling the center?
No.
Because if your piece is occupying a central square, the chances of it doing serious damage. I mean, look at this bishop and what it's potentially attacking versus pieces that aren't in the center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
They're not doing anything, right?
Look at this knight in terms of the amount of squares it attacks. There's actually 8 total while you're on this square versus a knight here that actually only controls 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, sorry, 4. So the reason is based on a pure power control. It goes back to risk. Don't ever control something because you were told to, right? You do it because you want to understand the goal of the game. If we're putting the goal of the game in this pyramid, right, at the top of the pyramid is checkmate. Right? We want to checkmate the king. The second tier of the pyramid is material. So either large amounts of it, if you're up a rook or a queen, then hallelujah, right? Or even small amounts of it, if you're up a couple pawns, that also is nice. So material is the best way for us to eventually outnumber the enemy king and get checkmate. But every road has to come back to checkmate in your mindset. So then the next level in the pyramid is piece activity and square control, because typically pieces that are more active, that control these squares, Dave, they're the ones with the best chance to take other pieces, to just take things and win pieces, right? So you're fighting for control over the center. You're fighting for space. You're fighting for those things because your pieces, a knight on d5, if you do something, let me just put a knight in an awesome square that you wouldn't want to allow. But let's say I have this knight on this like awesome square, right? A knight here is a lot more capable of catching you sleeping when you move your queen over here and let the knight fork your king and rook. A knight here is much more capable of doing things than a knight over here, just period. So that gives us the ultimate. So the reason why you're doing this is no longer about the opening explorer. It's about, look, my best chance for power chess moves. Power chess moves are moves that make threats and threaten to win material and is to control the middle area of the board.
Okay.
Does that help?
It sure does. Absolutely. Yeah, because if we're in the middle area of the board, we have more pieces and more squares that we're attacking. And our pieces are more mobile, and so we can catch people sleeping, like you said. I think that logically it makes sense. What I just said back to you, does that make sense?
You didn't see me because we're on a show, but you just blew my mind. You blew my mind. No, exactly.
Right,
that's exactly right. There you go. Right. So what I would like to do now is I want to take that knowledge and then one more tip I'm going to give you, and then we're going to go watch a couple of Hikaru's games.
Great.
Okay. So the the knowledge I want you to take to watching some of Hikaru's games, and you're just going to roll with it. You're going to, I mean, I'm your therapist here, okay? You're going to relax.
Okay.
You're going to take a breath. You're going to know that you're not going to be able to comprehend all of these moves, okay? You're not going to be able to calculate as fast as the moves are being played, okay? And
Yes.
but with the tips I'm going to give you, you are going to have a good feel for where the game is headed. And at least you're going to start looking at the moves and be like, okay, I can't calculate all of these tactics. I know I can't keep up with all this, but if I'm keeping these core things in mind, these moves hopefully can start making a little more sense. And here's what they are. So we have the first things I gave. So the big three to start a game. They're going to be fighting for control over the center. And if they're not directly occupying those squares, they'll be attacking those squares. And even if they make moves like this, Dave, whenever you see a bishop on the diagonal, you're going to know that that's a move that fights for the center, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you're going to look at every move as it is fighting for control over a critical area of the board. And why is it critical? Because we know that if they win that area, if they win that territory, a piece on that square is a better piece than a piece that's not in the center. That's basically it. So that's the first thing. You're going to look at every move with like, okay, the goal stays 100% focused here for the first 20 moves. Now, the only time that might switch is if they start doing the same thing, but let's say that somebody gets castled long, right, and the king is over here. Now you're going to see the same thing. If pieces start to shift to a side of the board away from the center, that is usually only because of one thing, and that's because the king has committed to a side of the board, and now I want to go bring all my pieces over there to where the king is. And because of the same principle I gave, if my pieces are near the king, their chances of doing damage if they go to sleep and miss something is higher. Okay? And then the last thing I want you to consider as we look at these, so it's either center, it's either fighting for the king, or the last thing is what we call tempo moves in chess. Checks, captures, or attacking of a piece that is more valuable than your own piece. Okay? So if we look at these games and we look at the openings to start, and Hikaru hasn't started a match with somebody else. Looks like Penguin GM gave up on Hikaru. He didn't have his best stuff today, so he's no longer playing. Hikaru 1-4-0. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to follow some top games, and we're gonna be. If I'm able to give you a couple tips here and there while watching the game live, that'll be great. But we're not going to try to get too much more than that, because what we're going to do is we're going to have fun. First of all, are you having fun?
I'm having a lot of fun. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have fun. No, I'm not trying to talk down to you. I'm just having fun with the whole mindset, because it's great. No, honestly, you shouldn't feel that way. You shouldn't even feel the need to self-deprecate, because honestly, like, this is a big problem in the chess world, and so much chess commentary is not focused on the massive majority of their audience. And now I'm not saying that every chess show on chess.com can suddenly become one where we get to have this sort of beginner banter, but it is needed. And honestly, with that mindset, I think that everybody who understands chess at a high level could do a better job of growing our game and of helping to engage and keep people engaged where chess isn't so intimidating. So I just want you to know, personally, I don't air those grievances that often, but I personally don't like the commentary of a lot of my fellow peers, if we're calling professional chess commentators, because I don't believe that I think we have to learn to do this. So I actually really appreciate this, so don't feel like you're just, can we hug it out?
We can do it
right here. Hug it out. Okay. Hug it out. There you go. Okay. All right. So are you ready to do this? Are you ready to jump on board?
I'm totally into it. Right.
Are you nervous?
I'm very nervous. I feel more challenged than I thought I was going to be. This is like a lot to think about, but I'm super into it. I'm ready.
Okay. So unfortunately, it looks like with that game, it looks like Hikaru is no longer online.
Oh, he knew I was going to be analyzing him.
He knew you were coming. So. Yeah. So we're going to follow a new top Grandmaster Michael Ruiz. So
if you can spelled normally, follow?
Yeah, yep. Michael Roiz. Michael Ruiz. So Michael,
sure, yes.
And he's in a game right now against Garpun.
Great.
Awesome. So you got the game up?
Sure do, yeah.
So, again, it's a tough one because it's already farther along, but let's look at the board. Where are White's pieces, right? They're attacking the king, correct?
Well, yeah, I see that White's pieces are... The first thing that I see is, like, he's trying to go for a checkmate on, like, G7, but the rook on G8 is blocking him. So
Dude.
is there a way to take out the rook? Is that what he's thinking?
Dude, so first of all, that is awesome. That's exactly the first thing I see. So you're not far off at all.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
seriously. It is. It is the first. That's the most critical thing about the position. So now but the only thing I see before that is that black is actually up material. Black has 2 rooks versus a rook and bishop. So from a material perspective, black actually has the better piece, conglomerate, right? The better piece grouping together.
Okay.
The reason why you have to recognize that, along with what you first said, the checkmate, is because you kind of want to be aware of where the game might be headed. In fact, so what black would like to do, if he's in a position where his king is under fire, Dave, and there's chances of checkmate, if he can get the queens off the board, that means white's chances of checkmating go down, and then the 2 rooks can be a little more loosey-goosey and make some damage.
Okay.
So notice what we've seen over the last few moves. We saw the black queen kind of guarding all these squares over here and trying to chase the white queen. You saw all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of chasing the white queen. He kept trying to offer an exchange.
Exactly. Yeah, he was trying
and white had to avoid it. And so eventually black won because white couldn't keep the attack going and deal with the queen trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, cool.
Simplifying it, right?
Right. No, simplifying it, but that's basically it. So let's try to do it. So now we're taking the knowledge into this game, and right now every move that's been played in their next game follows what I said. Right? They're attacking the center.
Mm-hmm.
Even this bishop that is not occupying the center has put himself in a position on g2 to guard the light squares. Correct?
Yes, to guard. Yep, absolutely. And I mean, my question there, what I just saw is like I would play a move like c5 with the pawn. But I can see now that if I were to do that, I'm not taking advantage of the opportunity to attack the center with the knight. Is that what's going on?
You're talking about if you were black.
If I'm black, right.
Right. So, like, instead of moving the knight in, you might have moved the pawn to c5 to attack the queen, correct?
Yes. That was my go-to. Yeah.
So that's awesome that you said that, because that's, again, it helps you to ask yourself this. If I make a move, will I want that move back? Okay?
Okay, yeah.
The reason that sounds silly at first, but it's actually not true. Pawn moves are particularly the things you think about, because if you imagine pushing that pawn to attack the queen, you've given a permanent control over the light squares. That pawn can never go back.
Okay.
Right? You ever seen All Dogs Go to Heaven?
I don't think so, Danny.
When she's like, Charlie, you can never come back.
I think that was the movie I cried in, and my mom pulled me out of the theater.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was traumatizing,
You blocked it out, PTSD. So the issue with moving the pawn moves is you have to balance making threats with whether it's a concrete threat, because if you're playing moves just for like the pure thrill of one attack and there's no follow-up, then you could be making weaknesses that you wish you had it to do over.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does. One of the things that you talk about a lot is attacking the dark squares or attacking the light squares. Now, I can tell you with assurance that I have never thought to myself, now I'm setting up to attack the light squares, or now I'm going to set up to attack the dark squares.
That's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right now you're at a level where your main goal is probably just like, don't blunder pieces and try to catch my opponent when he does. Try to catch him sleeping, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So the basic thing that we talked about in the beginning, control the center, because if you have your pieces occupying the center, your chance of getting those power moves where they won't. So already that's going to help you a lot. Like, we're going to focus on this for your next few games. Mm-hmm. The reason why strong players think of squares and pawns is because they're the only thing that really can't be undone. Once made weak, I mean, a piece can guard it temporarily, but there's no real going back for that square. Because it's weak and pawns can't move backwards. So people tend to develop plans at high levels around these positional things because it actually allows them to dictate where it's going, where their opponent can't just change the script. For example, like your move where you suggested attacking the queen. Mm-hmm. So you're attacking a piece, but guess what happens when she moves the queen? That pawn move did nothing else, right? So that's the different mindset. So you're trying to attack things where the best move can come from your opponent, and it doesn't make a difference.
Right.
Versus I'm going to attack this queen, and if he doesn't see it, I win his queen.
Right.
So that's why we think about weak squares and weak pawns, because now we're attacking things where the best move could come from our opponent, and it may not matter.
Okay. Yeah.
You're not going to get to this right away. That's just the mindset to always keep in mind.
Yeah. So I was thinking that. Well, I had a couple of thoughts. I guess the one thought was that you had mentioned you want to create tempo moves, right? So C5 would have been a tempo on the queen. Is that right? but it's
Yes.
still not good because you can't undo it. So like every time I
Well,
move a pawn forward, I'm giving up control of squares. So every pawn is like I should be a lot more cognizant of the pawns that I move.
yes, you
Should
should
just
always
be
be more
throwing
cognizant
everything to the center.
totally.
Yeah.
That is, I can just answer that with a yes. But even more to bring it where you feel like you can apply it more, where it's like more applicable to the confusion you're feeling, where you said like I'm telling you to play tempo moves, and now I'm saying don't play tempo moves. You want to take the next level in your chess is before you make a move, you have to consider that they're going to play the best move and stop your threat. So a tempo move that is a one-move plan, you're playing one-move chess. It's essentially hope chess. You're making a move, hoping he doesn't see your threat, right? And so tempo moves that are singulary, that don't achieve anything beyond a single threat, are very, very often bad. In fact, my Russian coach used to always say, "Checks are for potzers." Because when someone is losing, the first thing they do, like if we're looking at the live position in Michael Ruiz's game, notice that Black has had this option to give checks for several moves and he hasn't done it.
Okay.
Right? What would you probably be doing? You'd probably be going and giving those checks, right?
Yeah, Rook A1 or something.
Exactly, right?
Right.
So the reason why they don't give checks is because checks are for potzers, which means if you're making a tempo move, a check capture or a queen attack, with no plan beyond just that single move, you're playing one move chess at a time. Meanwhile, everyone always says, "Oh, I thought chess players think ahead." Well, you're not really thinking ahead, right? Because all you're doing is playing one tempo move, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
So you want to so instead you want to create a net. So look at this position where White actually created a net around this king on E8, right? And so now Black is checking the king because he has no choice. Black is either mated or he finds some sort of way to get some sort of tricks.
Okay.
Because White created this really dangerous situation.
But hard to execute?
Hard to execute. Yeah. White wasn't able to do it because Black actually created a better net before he started checking. Black actually did a good job defending that, but I don't want to back up because it'll get too advanced. There's no point.
If you so creating a net, can you talk about that a little bit? And
A net will, so that is actually, I probably jumped ahead. That's a little too advanced. But let's go back to this position you asked about, which is from this live game we're seeing here, everybody. And Dave is asking about the move C5 versus what Black did, which was Black continued to develop the pieces and then eventually put the knight on C5 to try to attack the pawn rather than play this sort of, singular tempo move here.
I don't want to get too hung up on this either. If you want to move on to other things.
No.
Like,
I know this
take,
is. I mean, what we're doing here is we're analyzing questions that are useful and instructive. So no, I mean, I want to talk about the move C5 because again, it's a singular tempo move that attacks the queen. But when that move is when the queen is safe, when the queen finds safety, did you achieve anything else in the position beyond the tempo move? See, tempo moves are fine if you can make moves with threats. And they're doing something bigger picture for your plan, well, then that's chess, baby. I mean, that's called outplaying your opponent. Now you're doing things at a high level. Magnus Carlsen, he plays for plans, and yeah, he sets a lot of tricks along the way. So if his opponents happen to blunder into the trick, well, then, we'll take it, right? But he's not looking for a one-move trick. He just happens to set a few while doing a better positional plan.
Interesting. Yeah. So there are very few moves where I play and I have like another follow-up move planned.
So the way you're going to start thinking about that is that, so we already talked about the opening, control the center, develop all your minors, get safe.
Yeah.
There are two ways beyond that. So let's go back to our analysis board.
Cool.
Okay. Since we're waiting for Michael Ruiz to play another game. So we're back on amateur analysis 1, right?
Yep.
So after you've done that, after you've gotten your pieces into the center of the board, or you've gotten your pieces out, and you've gotten castled. Obviously, they're not going to fully occupy the center because while you're doing this, your opponent isn't, they're not playing moves like this, right? Yeah. They're not just letting you, so this would be what we call the dream position in chess, right? Your opponent has done nothing. And of course, really, we would probably do something even more aggressive. But let's say we get the dream. We'll call this the dream, okay? This is the fantasy, right? This is the fantasy in chess from that concept I'm giving you of control the center, get the king out, and all the minors are in the game. So let's tattoo this on our eyebrow so we never forget it. It doesn't get better than this.
Okay.
Some small variations of it. Maybe a bishop is here or whatever.
Okay.
But you're not going to get this in chess. You're going to get something where you and your opponent were both fighting for the center, so you made compromises so that you didn't, lose material, right? You found other squares. Let's look at an example of that. So now let's say we're both fighting, and I attack a pawn, and so he defends a pawn. And I bring a bishop out to the same square, and he brings his bishop out. So now we're both sort of playing the fantasy. And because we're both playing the fantasy, it's not quite as good as the fantasy, but we've kind of both got our pieces on relatively centralized squares, and then we forget about the possible moves. Let's just say we make some sort of exact same approach outside of the fact that we couldn't get it exactly the way we want it. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah.
So now we have this fantasy, not really a real fantasy, but it's an example of we couldn't just develop our pieces to every best square because our opponent wasn't a total numbskull.
And this is something that looks familiar to me.
Okay.
I mean, maybe not this specifically, like this perfect, but some of my fantasies actually start like this one did.
Some of your fantasies actually start with this position.
Yeah, well, maybe not with this position, but
Right, maybe a different position, right?
Yeah, maybe not quite as good. Yeah, a different. I don't know what position it would start with.
Right, exactly. That's hilarious. So let's say this isn't everybody's fantasy, to each his or her own position, but this is a specific chess position that can occur if we're thinking about getting all of our minor pieces out, getting our king safe, and controlling the center with the three things we established today. But the thing I want to say is that the three thoughts should come to your brain both along the way of getting into these positions and once they're achieved, okay? The first one is, let's say we're at the position, it's been achieved, we took care of all those steps Danny said, king safe, minor pieces out, whatever, is you have to always be aware of the possible tempo moves for you and your opponent on every move. Every check, capture, and queen attack for both sides should always be on the forefront of your frontal lobe here, your frontal brain, okay? So that you're not blundering. That's how you avoid blundering, is no matter everything I'm about to tell you about strategy and thought process, you have to understand it comes second to being aware of the possible tempo moves that you and your opponent can both make. So first, that's like my caveat, that's my asterisk, right, before anything I'm about to say. The two plans that you can control in a game, beyond the obvious, which is pay attention to tempo move tactics, are all of your pieces on their most open line? So are there open files or open diagonals? A quick example, if you had this bishop, let me just say, if this bishop was over here, and I said, what's your least powerful piece on the board, you would say, oh, the bishop, and you would consider moving it to a better square. It's not always that obvious, but sometimes we have pieces that when we ask ourselves that simple question, are all of my pieces on the correct open files or open diagonals? And if the answer is no, consider, can I get them there? Is there a possible safe path for me to improve my pieces? Why is open files and open diagonals an improvement? Because they give your pieces more options. So this basically everything I'm saying can come down to one thought process, which is, are my pieces on their best squares? How do we define the best square? Well, we know we love the center, but let's say the center isn't always available because our opponent's not a numbskull. Then we should be thinking about, do my pieces have their best open files, their best open diagonals? Is my knight on its best possible square? Starting with the center and sort of going out from there, are my pieces on the best possible squares? The second thing you can think about, which is the next more advanced one, but is just as useful, is, okay, let's say I kind of feel that way, or maybe there's one piece that's not ideal, but I don't see a clear way to improve it, so let's move on, right? The next thing you can think about is going in the direction of your pawn chain. No matter what position you're in, sorry, drinking lots of water, you're going to have pieces facing a certain direction. Every position will have pieces facing a direction. So if there's ways to bring pieces to that area of the board, you should think about it.
So which area of the board? The area of the board where the pieces are facing? So
the area of the board where your center pawn chain is facing. So let's go back to the beginning and put it like this. Let's actually do something that's more realistic. We'll go for like a French opening, which is a good example of, forget about the opening moves. This is a French. This is a very clear example where white's pieces are facing one direction with a critical point that's obvious because black is attacking it, which is why we played the move c3 to defend it. And black's pieces are facing a direction with a very critical point. Black would like to bring pieces out behind these pawns and continue to bring pieces to the side of the board where they have space. They've opened up potential lines over here. And so it's easy. The point is, if you try to develop this bishop over here and see how far it gets you in this position.
Right. It's not going to be able to have it.
It's totally blocked.
Yeah.
So sometimes it sounds advanced to players, but it also shouldn't be that advanced because you should be able to look at a position and kind of see the way the river is flowing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there is no river. If there is no river, you know what that probably means? That means you're in an open center game. Like so now we play a game like the Scotch, a classical opening like the Scotch where the center opens quickly, and then or even we'll play like a Scotch Gambit to really open the center quickly for fun. We'll do something where basically everything opens up. Forget about the moves I'm playing. I know you don't know the theory. Let's just say we get a position. This is a theoretical position, and you get a position where basically the reason why there are no obvious closed pawn structure facing a direction is because the position has become totally wide open. So here the answer of where our pieces want to be, it's probably in the center where there's open opportunities for them.
Okay. So we're looking for
How we doing?
Areas of opportunity. First it's so we're looking for open files. We're looking to control the center.
Mm-hmm. Open diagonals.
And you said on the diagonals using
open diagonals.
Open diagonals. Right. Okay.
Open diagonals and open files are kind of the same one. Yeah. So you're looking for open files and open diagonals. You're looking for center control.
Mm-hmm.
And if neither one of those is directly possible, or let's say your pieces are already on decent center controls, whatever, look at your pawns and ask them to talk to you. Say, hey, pawns, will you give me some advice?
What do they say?
And they usually say, hey, I'm pointed this way, David. I'm going this direction. Follow me because I'm going to die.
Right.
I'm going to die first.
Yeah.
I'm your pawn. I'll lead the way with my mighty spear, and I'm going to head this direction. And you're okay, dude. I see there's some open diagonals that direction. I'm going to bring my pieces that way. Because they're kind of like shields. They're kind of in front of your pieces, and you have to think about them that way.
Right. Yeah, I think that I move them too much, though. I mean, I'm just sort of
You're
because I undefend lots and lots of squares. I think that's what I'm realizing as well.
Right.
And so the purpose of a good opening, tell me if this is right, is to free up open diagonals a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So that you could develop your pieces and get them in the best spots for being in the center.
And if you can use your pawns to limit your opponents from doing the same, you're really doing great, right? Let's say, this isn't a good move by them, but let's say you did this and they put their bishop here, where it's attacking on a diagonal on that side of the board. What's a move you might play here to limit that bishop's mobility?
Probably d4.
Boom, right? So if you can, your pawns should be moving with a dual purpose. Yes, moving that pawn opened up my bishop, but it also limited his bishop.
Right. And
so you're not always going to get that, but that should be your goal, right?
To open up pieces and attack other pieces.
And limit, even if you're not attacking. That's what I want to change that, because it's not always a tempo move, like when you want to attack the queen. It's limiting. Okay. So another good way I could have answered your question about the queen is the pawn was serving a better purpose where it was, remember, on that light square, because it was actually controlling squares, and that limited access to those squares. So you have to change the way you think about your pawns. Your pawns are like electric fences. You ever seen Lost?
I've seen it a little bit. Yeah.
Like the
I'm
big
not
electric
fences.
Though, Oh my gosh, Dave, we got to work on that. You got to watch
so
Lost.
I've said no to everything you've asked me if I've ever seen it.
No. I feel like you have so much potential to be a pop culture aficionado, but you're just not living up to it yet.
No,
All right. Anyway, no. So your pawns are like electric fences. So if I go here, and because you said you push pawns too much, right?
Yeah, I just sort of push.
Let's say the knight goes here. Now here you can move this pawn and attack the knight. But by definition, if you move the pawn, you're also giving up control over a square the knight can move to.
Right.
So that's not a bad move, but be aware that your pawns have feelings too. And they also want to control things. So sometimes another option is, hey, my pawn is doing a purpose right now, so maybe I'll just defend him where he is and keep this knight out of this central square.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I usually do. I'll play something like that.
Okay.
Because I also want to avoid double pawns. I think, is what I try to do as well.
That's always a good idea. Yeah, always avoid double pawns for sure.
But Yeah.
Okay. So how are we going to take this knowledge into your games?
Maybe. Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I could. What do you think? You're the teacher. You're in
Okay, well,
charge. I mean, I would
so
say we should break it down slowly into manageable chunks that I can understand, and maybe you could
right.
point out like where, oh, it's the second move, David. Like you're already lost. You're in a lost position, or like I'm not sure exactly how we would do that.
Well, one thing. So just to give you like a summary of like reminding you. So we did talk about one way to improve the start of your game, right? You're gonna when you use the Open Explorer, you're not going to focus so much on statistics and numbers that you maybe don't understand. You're just going to look at the total times a move has been played. As long as the percentage isn't totally out of whack, one move scores 80%, the other move scores 12%. Okay, there you know which one is better, right? As long as percentages are close and the games have been played before, just commit to something and then play it every time.
Cool.
Commit to an opening repertoire so you can start to get positions consistently.
Right.
And so if you take one of your games and plug it into Open Explorer, and then if you do that, you'll be building on every game you play, getting a little bit better at what you do.
Right.
So that's the first way to use Opening Explorer is forget about statistics, just use it as sort of a map to make sure you're not going too far off. Second thing, opening principles all come back to three things: central control, development of the minor pieces, as rapidly as possible. So I like to use the rule, don't move a piece twice till they're all developed, but let's just say that you want to do it as rapidly as you can, okay? And then finally, get the king safe. Whether that's the queen side, the king side, get him out of the center. That is usually the best thing to do. So that's already every game has to follow this.
Right. Tattoo that on my eyebrows or whatever.
You got the dream. You got the dream fantasy. You're never gonna forget it when you go to sleep at night. You've got your fantasies lined up. There you go. And so that's all we want. You've got your dream position here. Okay. The next thing is I gave you these advice to take further. Now, keeping in mind, you always have to be thinking of checks, captures, queen attacks, not just your own but your opponent's. It's, are my pieces currently occupying, their best open diagonals, files, and squares? If they're not, let's fix that problem. Let's get our pieces to some better squares. That's a plan. I know that seems silly, but that's a plan. Like, if that means a knight finding, a route that improves itself, you just played a two-move plan, buddy, right? If you're improving your pieces to a better open, let's say there's an open file here. This pawn got traded and the rook isn't occupying it. Well, let's get a rook on that file, right? Make sure your pieces are on their best open files and diagonals. And the final step is your pawns are talking. You have to listen. If there is a direction that is open, if they are facing a very clear direction, if pawns have been traded, by definition, that means there's open files, right? If, so ask yourself when you're thinking, okay, I've done all these things and the position's still pretty equal. How am I going to develop a plan that's worth something? Those are the things you want to think about. And again, if you're focusing on doing those things and then your opponent, if you're focused on doing that and your opponent, you're like, I'm here to control the center, and they go and put their queen here. Well, okay, that changes the plans, right? Now it's time to go take that queen, right? I mean, okay, like if your opponent blunders, that's called a change of plans, right?
Yep.
And let me add that, because the next thing to remember, as soon as you've won material, your plan should always be to simplify the position. It doesn't always mean trade, but you want to keep the position simple. Trading pieces is often good when you're up a lot, because it just makes your job easier, get pieces off the board. But go ahead.
I thought that was the only way to simplify. I thought simplifying was always trading to get everything off the board, because you're up, you're up a piece, so by the time there's like two pieces
Probably
left on
when
the
it
board,
comes to
you're
the semantics of the term simplify, you're right, but that's why I like to use the phrase keep it simple.
Okay.
Keep it simple means, let's say I'm up a queen, and they go here and they develop a knight, and I'm like, okay, all right, okay, I'm up a queen, and do I go here and maybe it gets messy, or do I just trade? Like here, you would just trade, right? Because you're up a queen. Keep it simple, right? But by the same token, if you're considering a plan where you're like, all right, they have an open file, and I'm worried about keeping my king over here, you might be like, you know what? I'm not going to castle and put him on an open file. Maybe I'll try to put my king over here because I just don't want to give him threats. Keeping it, or let's say this. Let's say not all trades are good, right? So let's say that they they go, this is kind of silly, but if they went here, I mean, you wouldn't give up a knight for a pawn even though you're up a queen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does that make
Right.
So basically you
Makes
cross a
sense.
line where as long as the trade is equal in terms of material, probably it's good, but also keep it simple as a mindset. It's about, not taking unnecessary risks. It's damage control. It's usually the first thing I do when I'm winning is I ask myself, okay, where are my weaknesses? Because if I just fix my own problems, this game's going to win itself. And so if I'm up a queen and I have a knight on the edge of the board and they didn't offer a trade, you know what I would do? I would bring my knight back to the middle of the board because I know that the center is where the action's going to be. That's an example of keeping it simple. You ask yourself when you're winning, what are my weaknesses and how quickly can I fix them? And if you have trades along the way, yes, most of the time you take them. But it's really a mindset of like, I'm not going to do anything stupid, basically, because I'm winning, right? Like, I'm not going to go for unnecessary risks.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm just sort of taking it all in because you're giving so much great information right now that might seem simple to you, but like it's an entire like worksheet. And I think that one of the things that I can do even is I'm going to go back through this video and take notes.
Okay.
And even like make that available, whether I could do it on my website or just put it on my Twitter or do whatever. But like,
that's
I feel
a
like
great
just
idea.
having a worksheet of like, okay, this is the amateur hour. These are the tips that we went over, and just
Right.
keep these things like print it out, put it next to your iPad, and
Right.
just look at it every few seconds.
Right.
And
In fact,
like,
it can be like a mantra. Like sometimes you get better by making things a part of your mindset. It's not even the X's and O's. I mean, one of the things I worked on as I was reaching, higher levels in chess was I was consistently having trouble winning games. And, we weren't talking queen advantages. We were talking small positional ones or a pawn, right? But games I should win, right? And I was just, I had a mindset that was lazy. I was often missing my opponent's threats, and I almost felt like entitled, like I had got a better position, I was going to win the game. It was just going to happen. And I really had to become a more disciplined and more mentally tough player. And so I had this mantra, which was, when you're winning, the game is only beginning. And I said it when I was doing laundry and doing the dishes and hanging out. As soon as you're winning, the game is only just beginning. And I said it over and over again, and I swear it helped because I had a different jaded perspective. And also, I think what helps is, when you screw up enough, you kind of like learn your lesson.
well, sure,
But
yeah. But I love that. I love that. I think that
so you can be like, control the center, or you go through the vid. I don't even want to overdo it. Go through it now, and whatever sticks with you and registers, you can make notes of that and make it a part of your mantra.
Yeah, I think that there's just so much great information that you threw out there really fast. And it's one of those things where, I'm just really glad that we have this opportunity to do it and really break it down, because I think that a lot of the people, if they're like me, love to watch your chess shows, because a lot of the times it's you just like kicking the crap out of people. Like, I love that. I love bullet brawls. I love the ding. I love that. I think it's awesome.
Right, okay.
Because sometimes, it's like fun to watch you just, wreck people. I don't know what it is. But like, but at the same time, it's like I love watching the GMs play, and I love watching like Simon's show. I love like all that stuff. But a lot of the times, it's just like so far over my head and so fast. I'm left saying like, "Wow, those guys are amazing," and then I don't really take anything from it though. So, this ability to like break it down with you has been, just really amazing. It's awesome.
Well, and honestly, I think that this is something we're going to do more of, and we're going to have other masters involved in it too. But this is an effort that I think needs to be made, and I think if you provided some notes and showed people kind of like your takeaways and stuff, maybe a blog on chess.com. If you ever blogged on our site, it would be a great. That we should do an amateur hour blog to complement what we're doing here, so that
totally into it.
So that people have a reason to like. All right, so let's watch Dave Payette's journey. We're paying it forward. We're literally paying it forward with you, because I'm giving you these options, and hopefully you can then pay it forward to somebody else. Oh my God, we just did branding for you without even meaning to.
That's amazing.
Pay it forward.
They should go to my website, payitforward.com.
That's right.
No, it is. I mean, that's what I do. I'm a blogger, so yeah.
No. Okay, let's do it. So let's blog on chess.com, because then you can use our chess tools. You can take the games or talk about stuff, or you can just do a blog on your own site. But either way, I think that we'll build a following, and it'll be a lot of fun to see people's.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, blog. Yeah. I think it'd be amazing. So what can we do to, I guess we're kind of out of time, right? Are we wrapping it up?
Yeah, I think we're kind of wrapping it up.
Getting the vibe. So like, what can we do to end the show on like, just like a high note? Like,
how about let's end the show every time with I'll play somebody and try to wreck them. you can follow me and try to do trash talking commentary. How about that?
Well, I can. I mean, if I try to trash talk, I think it'd be more fun if I played somebody you trash talk me. But
Let's do it. Okay, you play and I'm gonna follow you.
just freaking, just you go right down. Yeah, I mean, and anybody that's watching this too, like, please friend me on chess.com because I play a lot of chess and I would love to play anybody. I especially love losing to better players.
All right,
Because I
awesome.
always learn something. So
So
should I just
let's
start a
hold
game?
on. Let me
Start commitment, or,
let me follow you real quick.
man, the tables have turned.
This is gonna be so much fun.
This is going to
I'm
be
following you. All right, as soon as
Get
you
to the
start, the
microphone.
game's gonna be up, and I'll have analysis for people too.
Okay, so you can see me. All right, now I'm gonna hit the play button. 3-minute game, 5-minute game, 1-minute game.
Whatever you want. I mean, I think
I
let's
think
not
that,
do more than 5 minutes, but we can do 3 minutes or 5 minutes.
well, if we're wrapping it up, let's stick to 3 minutes this time, and then
All right, cool.
see how it goes. See how it goes.
All right,
Let's 3 minutes.
let's
Let's
do
see who our lucky person is. Drmurskly. All right,
Let's do it.
Drmurskly. E4.
Merskly, way too many
Take
consonants.
that. Yeah, too many consonants. No vowels.
Okay, look at
RST,
you. You're
LNE.
playing
Nope.
E4. So let's see how adorable you can be with the rules I just gave you. So you're a passive. You're playing a little passively, right? You played D3.
I honestly just played that move automatically. I'm going to start thinking about what you said right now. These people that
Okay.
are watching us are like, "Oh my god, that idiot." Okay, S3.
Yeah, get your pieces out, right? Let's be aggressive, man. All right, so I'm following your game.
Thank you. So now I can
Just
see
so
that.
everyone knows, the moves I make over here on the analysis, David can't see. So if I recommend a move, he doesn't see it. So don't worry.
Oh no. So I'm going to threaten his queen. Now
Right.
he's probably going to play that move, in which case I have no response, right? So then I just back it up. Now he's going to play what?
Back
D5?
that thing up.
Back that bishop.
Back that bishop up. So probably you should have just taken in the center instead of that bishop, because there's an example of you playing a tempo move without foresight, right?
Yeah. So I'm just going to take. Now
You know,
he's got double pawns.
don't worry about my trash talk, because you want to win the game. Play fast and win the game.
Okay. I'm going to play fast and win the game. Play
There
fast.
you go.
When you're winning.
And
Okay.
and remember to do what we've talked about. Get your pieces out. Get castled.
Right. Well, I'm going to
Follow
get
the
this.
principles.
Okay. I'm going to. I don't know. Let's see. You're going to win this game. No pressure.
Yeah. We're
All right,
going
so
to
let me
win
go here.
this one for the
Sure.
fans. You're going to win this one for the fans.
Okay, so I'm going to actually develop some pieces.
Okay.
Get him out of the center. Get my king to safety. And normally I just like push the pawn.
So we'll see if your opponent sees the potentially very dangerous move to play after that. Actually, okay, he's smart. If he had taken your G2 pawn with the queen, he would have gotten in big trouble. So I won't tell you how, because I want to wait to see what you play here.
Okay, I'm just going to keep. Well, I'm just going to let's see. Do this.
Keep on keeping on, man.
Developing his pieces. He's just sleeping at the wheel over here, and
Okay, so on the subject of checks, captures, tempo moves, right? You have to establish every move, what their threats are, what you want to do the same.
right. So I just want to. I'm going to threaten his queen.
Very good. Which did two things, right? It stopped him from checkmating you, first of all.
Of course it did. That's why I played it.
I hope you did, because that's why I was trying to tell you. But it also skewers his queen and bishop, so that was a very good move by you, sir. I don't mean to, I know I said I wouldn't cry, but I'm real proud of you on that. That was probably the best thing you've done all day, right there. All right.
This guy is stumped. He just got the idea that this is serious. And
Yeah,
he's
this
saying,
guy is
"First,
like, oh man, like that guy just wrecked me with that skewer. Look at you. You skewered his queen and bishop, bro.
I'm gonna just
You
put
know
him
what
on
you're
a
going to
stick."
do after this game?
What?
You're going to break 1,000, homie.
Oh, I don't think so. He's 992. I'm gonna get to like 999. It's gonna be tragic.
That's going to be tragic. Man, I wish you could get above 1,000. That would be epic way to end the first
You know-
ever amateur hour.
I think my highest rating ever has been something like 1060,
Okay.
and I was feeling pretty good. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I bet you were. I mean,
Pretty
that was
good.
you were living the high life. You came home from work and the missus is like, "What's gotten into you?" Right?
Yeah, if there was a missus involved, she probably would have been like, "Why am I hanging out with this kid's house?"
She would have do that.
Very surprised.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
let's see. So he's trying to I mean, I just got to take the piece, right? I mean, there's no immediate threat here with the queen, so I'm
Yep.
just going to take his piece.
That's what you got to do. Yeah, and so now you're up material, so your focus
Right.
needs to be on playing quickly, right? What is your weaknesses? Let's get everybody involved, because when you're up this kind of material, if you start coordinating and getting everybody in the game, and you use all your pieces, you should win this one. Pretty straightforward.
Right. So let's see. That's I feel like there's probably a better move here. Let's see what's not defended here, right? I'm supposed to look for undefended pieces. People are friend requesting me and stuff right now. It's awesome.
Man, you're becoming a star.
Here I go. Yeah, I'm like the
All right.
engine that could here. Okay, let's set up a. Let's just try to simplify, right? Because I feel like I'm up a little bit.
Hey, that was probably your second best move you played all day. That move right there on your last move, knight a3. He should have taken your knight with his bishop and then won this pawn on c3. That would have been his bee's knees, but he didn't see the bees or the knees.
Well,
but you're doing what you need to do. You're simplifying. Just always be aware of your opponent's possible threats before you make moves and trade.
right. I can see the threat right now on right there.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that was the only issue with that. You gave him that check. Now you're still winning, so you just got to be aware of. You want to make sure you're thinking about the tactics. Checks, captures, tempo moves for you both. Checks, captures, tempo moves. How do we get all of our pieces going toward the right goal?
Right. So he should just take my bishop, right? Is that what should happen? Yeah.
Well,
and then I
he
should take his
did.
knight and put
I
him
was
in
just gonna
check.
say, if he does, you have the knight, but you already said it, so that means I'm not cheating. I'm not helping you too much. You're doing great.
Oh, thank you.
And the best thing is that you're also up on time. Look at you showing some reckless technique, Holmes.
Oh.
Nice.
Oh, man, I don't even know what to do. Okay. See, this is where I'm trying to like set up a.
Boom.
Boom.
Oh, 998. You're right. You didn't quite break 1,000. That is just cruel. Our algorithm needs to be better.
Well,
you
hey,
should have
I mean,
broken 1,000 for that. That's my bad. You know what? For me today, you're over 1,000 to end the show.
I feel like I'm over 1,000.
So let's do a quick analysis session of your game. So I'm gonna grab the PGN from your game. Go over to Amateur Hour 1, the analysis board.
Okay. Take the PG.
And I'm gonna add your game.
Okay.
So now you can see I'm going over your game.
I sure can.
So first of all, D3 is just passive, bro. You don't need to do that. Get your pieces in the middle of the board. You're blocking your own bishop, right? You're protecting your pawn before you need to.
Okay.
But what?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not going to move it to the middle. I thought that D3 was a good move there. Totally not. I see a lot of people play D3.
Well, a lot of people do dumb things, man. I mean, have you seen our president?
I've seen the president. But I don't, yeah. I want to take a position.
All right. I mean,
I don't take positions on any of those.
Now that you know everything I just blew your mind with, and you're going to watch this show and you're going to make notes and everything, right?
Yep.
Then you'll know that yes.
Everybody
from
is coming up. You watch out.
You are, dude. You're by the next time we have this show, I want to see that rating above 1,000.
Oh, yeah, it's
all
not
right?
just me. It's, I'm taking it with me. We're coming up.
You have a homework assignment, baby girl. Now, so here's the thing. D3 is okay, from the criteria we talked about, it's not the worst move, right? It does reinforce the center. It also opens up this bishop. But is it the best move from the criteria we talked about? No, because it blocks the bishop and it's not needed to yet. So here, put it this way. Play bishop c4 first and then play d3, and now I'm happy.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Now you've got pieces out. Or there's also a general rule in the King's Pawn games, which is called knights before bishops.
Okay.
If you can, there's a reason why normally the knights lead the way attacking first. A lot of the times is because the bishops don't know where they need to go until a knight has developed, because now guess what one of the best moves is? Bishop b5, right? This move attacks the knight, which means indirectly white is also attacking the center because you're eliminating that piece.
Okay, so you would want to trade a knight for a bishop there, like the white.
You could, if you end up getting a big control of the center. I don't want to get too into the opening theory there because that'll confuse you. But what I'm trying to point out is moves with a purpose, and often the reason why the knights come out first is because they have more purpose at first. They have an easier time attacking the center, whereas the bishops don't always know where to go yet. But okay, again, as I said, bishop c4 and then d3 would have been phenomenal.
Okay.
So not going to spend too much time on that. After that, you did well. You started getting the pieces out. This is a tempo move that doesn't go beyond that. That's an example of, hey,
absolutely.
let's let's have the next move. But before you make a move, you should have your next move planned. I mean, you really should. Think about it this way. The initial steps when you deal with kids is, when you deal with teaching kids chess, is the first step of critical thinking is the at least acknowledgement that there's other human beings on the planet. So the first step with kids is you teach them this. If I go there, what will happen next? Okay, so it teaches them like the consequences of their actions. Like, hey, son, if you touch the hot stove, what will happen next? Right? If you throw that rock through the window, what am I gonna do to you next? Right?
Yeah.
You're gonna get grounded, whatever, right? So you teach them consequences. If I do this, this happens, and they learn that by boundaries, by making mistakes, and by good parents. They teach them boundaries, right? Like at first, when you're 2-year-old, when you have a kid, and I've had this experience, and they hit you in the face, and you're like, oh, that's so cute and funny. But then if they're still hitting you in the face by the time they're 7, and you're like not disciplining them, now it's just awkward, right? People are like, hey, are you gonna tell your kid it's not cool to hit? Right?
Yeah. So parents can be so judgmental.
Parents, exactly. So here's the thing. So the first step of critical thinking, Dave, is if I go there, what happens next? But the next step after that is, it's not, okay, it's, think of it this way. If your opponent moves, you say, why did they go there? But it implies past tense. You're thinking in the past because the move has already happened. Okay, so the step of if I go there, what happens next, that is actually already a great step. So now you're not just playing this move because you ask yourself, if I go there, what do they do next? You'd be like, oh, he's just going to do this, and that would be a stupid move of me, right?
Yeah.
So, but this would be a good one. If I go there, what happens next? Well, he's going to take it, but now I can attack his queen. That'd be a great way to start the game. I'm getting my minor pieces out with tempo. I'm attacking his queen, right?
Huh. I never think to do that because, okay, I'm trying to get my pieces out, so now I've moved a pawn twice.
But the pawns only move twice when they've really been given an opportunity to attack something. I mean, like, think about it. This pawn can't move anywhere, and if someone puts a piece here or here, though, well, now it has an opportunity to move twice. So you're not really losing time in that sense. If a bishop moves here, and then the next move you decide, you know what, I want the bishop to go here. Okay, well, now you're losing time, right? Now you're just being, you see what I'm saying? So, like, if you moved here, I'll actually make a move. If you moved here, and then they went here, and you said, oh, you know what, in hindsight, I want the bishop to be here. Well, now that's silly, right? But with a pawn, if they're giving you the opportunity to move, it's because they've changed the position. They've given you something to capture. So it's not really the same thing.
Okay.
Anyway, so you play this. So anyway, after this, you started, I kind of pushed you to just start playing faster. You did it. You got your mojo on. I was real proud of you. Oh. You played c3. This was great. Bishop g2, what I wanted to point out was that if he had taken here, you would have actually had this move, and then you win the queen in a fancy schmancy way, because if he goes to g6, you go to pin town. Boom.
No way. Ooh.
That would have been sexy. But he didn't do it.
Yep.
Instead, he played just as bad of a move. Instead of taking, he played b5, and that allowed you to do this. But, okay, you castled first, which is good.
So that was a terrible move by him, because by moving that pawn forward, he, undefended.
Yep. And that's a good example of what we said about pawns, right? He's moving these. This guy's obviously not watching Amateur Hour right now, is he? No, he's not.
Yep.
Yeah, this guy needs to get his game on, get his game together. Yeah, really. So, I mean, he's just pushing pawns willy-nilly. This is an example. This is an example of a pawn pusher willy-nilly, a Willie Nelson pawn pusher, okay? and you punished him.
Yeah.
You got one piece. You gave it check. So this move wasn't great, but it's also not the worst because, okay, if he takes here, he's trading another piece, so you're happy, but he probably could have done that and won this pawn, and, maybe knight a3 isn't my favorite move you've ever played, but...
what do you play here?
I mean, I probably play a4. I probably find ways to open up more pieces and open up this.
Okay. Oh, right, because there's a diagonal there that would be open for the queen on the king. I see that.
So that might be what I would do. Or I might bring the bishop back and just say, I'm gonna centralize this baby. You might also take the pawn. I mean, again, these are double pawns, but it's also an extra pawn, right? And the more you open the position, the better your chances of getting at this king. So any of those, I mean, but again, knight a3 was not a terrible move. He didn't take it, and you went for the simplification. I loved it. Even this was good. I didn't think you saw this, but it actually wasn't the worst thing because when he goes for it, it's actually a bad move for him to go for it because now all of a sudden he has even more problems to deal with. So it kind of worked out for you. Yeah. And you did it. You brought the noise, man. You brought the heat.
I did. And he ran out of time.
I don't want to say that you brought your A game, but I would say that you definitely brought your B+ game today,
Brought my-
and I appreciate that.
My egg game. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Eh.
All right, Dave, this has been a ton of fun. I'm actually really curious to get the feedback. Fans, tweet at us. Tweet at both me and Mr. Pay It Forward. Look for Dave's blog. I think I'm going to push him to do it on chess.com. That'll be a cool way to supplement what we're doing here.
Oh, absolutely. I'm willing to do it.
Awesome.
Totally. Can I plug my website real quick?
Go for it, man.
Yeah. So my story is like payitforward.com. Check it out. A few years ago, I wrote a blog post, and the only one that I ever wrote went viral, and 5 million people read it in a week. And now we show people how to do that. And because I live this crazy lifestyle now, that's really cool, and I can travel. And we have a course called blogwinners.com that really walks people through how to get started with that. And we're just getting started. So we're looking for people who are interested in maybe trying to start a blog or like figuring out how we do what we do and helping them get started. So it's an opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to plug that.
I didn't even know that.
Really?
That is. I think you told me a little bit. I might not have been paying attention. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's awesome, dude.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous.
No, I know. You told me your story. I knew you wrote. I knew you wrote a viral blog, and I knew about Pay It Forward, and I knew what you did with iPhones and stuff. But I didn't know you were starting this new thing, the blogwinners.com.
Sure, yeah, and that's why, I mean, like, and what you're doing with Chess Kid, right? And you're like getting into the education system, and we were talking about how awesome that project is too.
Right.
And I think it's awesome for people at any level because, like, I mean, adults are supposed to have achieved a certain proficiency maybe at chess, but like a lot of us are just not quite there yet. So, yeah.
Hey, I'm not quite there yet. And I certainly could probably use some tips from your blog winners. That is awesome stuff, and you can even plug the blog when you write the blog on chess.com. You can plug the blog there too. That'll be great. I mean,
totally.
So we're definitely going to do this again. Part of the format right now with Amateur Hours, I think we'll have different levels of hosts. So we'll have Dave as a regular guest. We'll have some others maybe slightly stronger than you, and slightly weaker than you. That wasn't an insult or anything. I was just saying, like, so we'll mix it around and we'll have some fun. But this has been a lot of fun, and if nothing else, we ended on a high note because you almost broke 1,000, and that was good. All right, man. Seriously, this has been awesome. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Dave and I are going to be out, so subscribe, follow Dave on Twitter, subscribe to his stuff, and let us know. Give us some feedback on the show if you're appreciating the opportunities for amateurs to get their thoughts heard. We're bringing it.
And I'm more than willing to give anybody advice on their chess game. Like if you're it might not be good advice, but.
No, dude, I'm the same way. I'm willing to give anybody advice, whether it's good or not.
No, you're amazing, Danny. You're so humble. People,
all right, well, thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, and me and Dave will do this again, everybody. We'll see you later.